Hi, everyone, and welcome to the stream, which is the first of four parts when we're going to explore how to build a second brain. But as people just join the stream, I'd just like to introduce myself a little bit so you can get to know me. So my name's John Gordon. Originally, I'm from the north of Scotland, and when I was about 16, I joined the RAF. Um, During my time in the RAF, I've done lots of different jobs that involved learning development, air traffic control. But towards the end of my military career, I got involved with a software engineering project. And that project was basically taking flight plans, which were manual bits of paper, and converting them into a way that the system could interpret them. And that gave me the bug for becoming a software engineer. And ultimately, I moved from that into various roles, working with IBM, companies like Atos and Capgemini, building software. I then moved into a company called QA, where I really kind of concentrated on building learning solutions and getting people into products and mainly into early careers and jobs. So getting people into things like software engineering with some of the kind of FTSE 250 companies. I then started my own company for about 2 years with a really good friend of mine, and we really kind of focused on AI and automations, particularly within the sales domain. And then about one of the customers we had at the time was a company called MediaZoo, and that was one of the companies that we worked with. And ultimately, I got offered a role with them after a large AI transformation project. And in that AI transformation project, absolutely at the heart of everything that we done was built around this idea of knowledge management for AI. And really like this second brain that we're going to speak about in this 25 to 30-minute introductory session is just to tell you a little bit about that story, the journey that we have went on, and then just take you through a little bit of what you can expect in the next few sessions. So just a bit about the specific pains that the second brain that we're going to kind of go through in the next few sessions and what it covers. So I've been in L&D for quite a long time. That's learning and development. And over that years that I've been in that and working with different teams, I have consumed more YouTube videos than I would think to like to imagine. I've looked at from a technical point of view more Stack Overflow posts. If there's anyone technical on the call, I've done more Udemy courses, more books, read more books, and that really applies not just to me but the teams that I've worked with. And this has not been a really new concept that I've been exploring. It's been really something I've been exploring with teams for the best part of last 10 years of how can we start to make this knowledge work for us. And really like the kind of key thing is that we keep consuming all of this data, but none of us or the most of us don't make it work for us. So the idea around personal knowledge management and second brains isn't by no means a new phenomenon, but what you can do with AI does make it super interesting. And the majority of people I speak to, if I'm down the pub, I'm asking, what do you do with the different bits of data that you consume? If I'm out with my friends, everyone seems to have this knowledge graveyard of different things that they consume, videos, content, and stuff like that. And it doesn't seem that anyone's making the knowledge work for them. So over these four streams, what we're going to try and do is make some knowledge work for us. And the idea of making this knowledge work for us and having your mind for ideas but not having them as like long-term memory was kind of coined by a chap called David Allen. And like we all kind of know it, so like we can think about the ideas that you have, and sometimes I can't even remember what I'm having for my dinner the next day, never mind reminding myself what the team discussed in a stand-up or what we plan to do for a particular project. So I can barely remember that. So what we can do is we can offload that to a second brain, And then we can really start to think about how we can express our knowledge in different ways. And that's what we'll start to explore. And every decision that kind of my team has been made, and every YouTube video that we watch, and every stand-up that we go to now, that we start to like take that knowledge, we consume it, and then we distill it into this very, very simple format so that we can use AI to make it work for us. And that is going to be the key thing that we're going to explore in the next few new things. So in me and most people that I've worked with, I just say the same thing again and again. We consume more knowledge than we ever have, but this never really seems to compound. It doesn't matter if I'm working with our customers, if I'm working with our clients, and even if I'm working with our children. So what a second brain does, it makes that knowledge work for us. And in the age of AI, where getting this knowledge is cheap, when you can start to structure it into the way that you think, incredible things can start to happen for you. So what I'm going to do is we're going to explore this via an interactive whiteboard that I've built. We're going to talk about some of the key parts, and then we're actually going to explore a second brain that I've built for the session. So basically, when I was preparing for the session today with the team, I created a small second brain. So everything you're going to see off of this, the assets that you're going to see, the whiteboard, the landing page that you might have signed up for today, all came from that second brain. So I'm going to introduce you to our second brain canvas. And basically, as I said, the idea all around this second brain is all around making things compound. So the absolutely key thing, and not, it's very hot here in Manchester, sorry, in London today. So the key thing that we're going to be thinking about is going to be compounding this knowledge and making the knowledge work for us. And what this second brain gives us is a really searchable knowledge base that we can use again and again and again. And what that actually means is this. We can build this really simple folder architecture, and then we can start to put simple files in that with our team, our meeting transcripts, our PowerPoint decks. We can simplify them into this architectures and make AI work for us. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to give a little bit of a demo, and what I'm going to do is work backwards. So I'm going to show you how I mainly work with AI, which is via Claude. And what I've done is I've set up my second brain for this particular session, and then I've used Claude to ask some questions about it. And then after I've asked some questions about the second brain, after that, what I'm going to then do is show you the second brain and how it works. And then we're just going to kind of explore it for a little bit from a higher level point of view. And then we're going to speak about the sessions and what we're going to cover in each one of them. So for those of you who are not familiar with this is Claude. This would work exactly the same no matter if it was Copilot Studio with Microsoft, if it was Gemini and Google, if it was OpenAI, or any of the tools that you may use. So basically what you can see is I have uploaded what would be my second brain. So all the information that we need for this stream. So all the information I said for who I'm targeting on the stream, all the information of what is the brand guidelines for the stream, all the information on what is the overall outcome, what are the different lessons that we're going to say. So that's all been put into a second brain that we're going to explore here today. So basically, after I made the second brain, then I started asking it questions, really simple questions. So basically, I said for a start, what is the North Star? What are we actually trying to achieve here? And then I don't even have to remember it now. The second brain answers it for me. So really what we're trying to do here is make our knowledge compound, as I said before. And our second brain gives us that. So it allows us to add knowledge so that we can get insights in this world of AI when things are ever changing. So then inside my second brain, then I said, well, who is the target for the stream? Who am I wanting to go into do that? So me and my team worked through that and saying who that stream was for. And really it's for content creators, for people that are in learning and development, for people that are in marketing, for people that are creating content. So the thing that's really remarkable about these second brains is after that you've got them and you've built them, you can start to build really unique things on top of them: landing pages, websites, infographics, anything that you can think about, and it's all coming from the knowledge base that you and your team have built. So when I was starting to put this together and I was putting together the actual branding for our kind of company. So Finervision is a company of MediaZoo. So the company that we're going to speak about in a little bit is called Finervision. But when we were going through a rebranding, we put all that branding assets into our second brain. So what are the primary colors? What are the colors that we're looking at? What is the typography? What are the key things that we're trying to land? So basically, then that's when I've got my second brain, I can start to build very consistent assets. So if you look at the thumbnails for the stream today, you'll kind of see how they look. So that was driven from the second brain and the design system that we built for it. A little sneak peek of what we're going to be going through for the next 4 weeks. So when I was designing the curriculum for the 4 weeks, so this week is just a small intro to get to know me, get me used to streaming again. So it's been a little time since I've done a stream. Then next week, what we're going to do is we're going to start to look at Markdown and how to get stuff into the second brain. Then we're going to start to make that knowledge work for us. And then after that, we're going to look at how we can scale it across teams and things like that. And then I won't go through all of these, but we start to look at the value proposition for this and what the audience, what you're going to get out of it. What is the actual purpose of this? So we've got a number of products that might come off the back of that if you're interested to explore. And then one of the things that's most interesting, so if you've come across AI skills, and it's not skills that you think about from traditional L&D, so what skills are reusable recipes or workflows that you can put on top of AI and data to solve problems again and again. So what does a consistent PowerPoint deck look like? What does a consistent landing page look like? What does a consistent outreach campaign look like on HubSpot? What does a consistent targeted outreach campaign look like on LinkedIn Sales Navigator, etc., etc.? So after you've built these things, you can build skills on top of them to help solve these problems. And then you can start to compound it. So then you can start to ask your second brain questions. So you've got your ICP, you might have your brand guidelines and your language, and then you can start to do like targeted messaging, for example, or you could do targeted learning. So after you've got the second brain, you can start to do truly remarkable things with it. At this point here, I'll just take a little second just to see if anyone's got any questions on any of that before we kind of step through it in a little bit more detail. Cool. No questions at this stage. So what I'm just going to do, I'm going to go through this quite quickly, is just talk through what the second brain actually looks like. And this is the bit that when I kind of speak to non-technical people, so I'm from a software engineering background, is where people start to get a little bit intimidated. But the thing that I can promise you is that the second brain is built with the simplest files and folders that you can ever think of. And literally that is all it is. It's files and folders in the simplest way that you can kind of work with them. So this is my second brain. So this is a tool that I use called Obsidian, and it's just like Microsoft Word. So it's the program that I use to audit and edit my second brain. And this is a free tool that you can use personally, or you can get a small license for it. We're not affiliated with them, but it's just a tool that I like using. But because these are such simple files, you can use the most basic notepad that's from Windows 97 if you're on that, or from the original Mac, and that'll work with these programs. So basically here you can see each one of this on the left hand side are my folders. So I've got a folder called inbox, and basically that's where my knowledge is coming into my second brain. So this is where I'm putting my PowerPoints, my transcripts, everything that I'm putting into the second brain is coming from there. And then what I kind of do with the second brains is I've got different ones for different things that I'm trying to do. So for this one, because it's for a particular product, what I've got one around what the strategy of the product is, who's the audience, what's the series about, what's the brand, what skills can I build to make building these things much easier for myself, and again and again and again. So if we just walk through one of these files and we just go through the North Star, and although this might look a little bit intimidating, all it is about 6 little symbols that you need to learn. So if I just quickly just look at this, what this document looks like, it basically all you can see here is that we use these simple hashtags basically to have headers. So in Microsoft Word, you've got heading 1, heading 2, heading 3, heading 4, heading 5, heading 6. The key thing to this thing, and it's called Markdown, this special language that we build our second brains with, it's just the most simple file format that we can use to go and get data. And basically the way that we work with my team is that we take our kind of complex data, our PowerPoint decks, Words, PDFs, and then we make it into this really simple file format because it gives us a whole bunch of things. So it gives us a simple way to put the data into the AI. So the AI doesn't have to go and do the translation of taking the PowerPoint and getting it ready to put into the AI. It lets us know, if we're working with customers, the exact data that's being processed. It lets us know exactly what we're kind of doing and stuff like that. So there's a whole bunch of things that we're going to explore over the kind of the incoming weeks of what the second brain actually gives us. So I'm just going to go back to my whiteboard. And as I said, this was built from a second brain. So this uses something called Excalidraw. And I basically said, can you build me an interactive session from my second brain today using a skill? So let's just chat through it. So basically, as I said before, what is the purpose of these second brains? We consume a huge amount of knowledge, and basically the majority of people that we work with don't make that knowledge work for us. And increasingly we're seeing customers that have maybe got legacy or aging workforces where people are retiring and that knowledge is retiring with them. So that's another idea for a second brain. Well, if you've got legacy systems that need to be documented, or you've got legacy business processes, they can all be documented into a second brain, and you can start depending on the process and not the particular person. But we can take articles, podcasts, posts, meeting notes, and ideas, and then what we can then do is that we can make sense of it. And that's what we'll start to do in the next couple of weeks. We'll take that knowledge and put it into our second brains. And then when it gets really interesting, is this is not like a one and done thing. As you put more into your second brain, as a team, as an individual, it continues to get smarter. So in MediaZoo, the company that I work for, we've been on a 2-year transformation journey, and we've got second brains for different parts of the business. We've got organizational second brains. So we've got 3 parts of our organization. We've got the MediaZoo business, we've got the finervision business, and we've got the uncertainty experts business. And I'm going to be speaking about more about them in the upcoming streams. But basically what we've got is a second brain for each one of them. So basically you can go and ask for, what is the finervision mission? What are the business goals? What are the KPIs? What are the brand systems? So that's the first type of second brains that we've got, organizational second brains. The next, we've got departmental second brains, sales, marketing, product. We've got these second brains for different ones. So for the sales one, for example, what's our sales strategy? What is our KPIs for sales? What is our messaging? We've got one for our learning development team. So what does great learning look like? Who's our target audience? And basically what these second brains do in departments, it means that you can start to have really kind of standardized processes. And also when you start to onboard people into your team, you start to solve a tremendous amount of problems really quickly. The next type of second brains that we've got is we've got project second brains. So when we're working with a customer, we'll make sure, first of all, that they're happy using AI, but then you can build the second brain for that project, and then you can tell them exactly what data is going to be processed by AI. For this project, this is a project brief. These are the brands that we're going to be working against. This is the outcomes. This is what we're going to use with AI. And one of the beautiful things you can do with the second brain as well is that you can add something called metadata to them to say what the AI can and can't process. So you can start to build these more sophisticated second brains that we'll look to towards week 3. And then finally, and most importantly to this stream, is you can build your personal second brains. So all that information you're consuming, the YouTube videos that you're watching, the TikToks, maybe. Well, I'm nearly 40, so I don't watch too much TikTok. But the Udemy that you might be consuming, the Plural site, any of the courses that you're watching, any of the books that you're reading, you can start to make that knowledge work to you for putting it inside your second brain. So from that kind of compounding point of view, you could have the organization, the department, the project, or the personal second brain. And just as a little side note, so like getting to know me, one of my youngest son is very autistic. And one of the things he struggles with is with language and with learning. So what we've done with him is he's got his own little personal second brain that he can ask when he's going through different situations. So these things can do lots of different things in your life. So you can say like, what happens in this different scenarios? So these second brains can be unbelievably intuitive and enrich your lives when you're working with them. So as I said before, people get intimidated by them, but they're so simple. But they're simple when you start to really use good ways of working with them, putting data into them in a standard way, starting to think what goes into them, what doesn't go into them, and that type of things. And you go from just a very kind of a folder and file structure that doesn't work to you to this really complex knowledge graph that can do lots of really cool things. And then just starting to think, well, what can we do with it? So as I said before, you can start to ask questions about it. You can start connecting the dots. You can start to create stuff with it. So there's so much things that you can do with these second brains that are really cool. Are really cool. And as I said before, so the structure of these second brains and these notes that we put into them are really simple. So up here, that's an example of the metadata that I spoke about before. So we can say what the title is, the type of note it is, how it links to other notes. And although this might seem complex, we can use AI to really simplify that for us. And really, what's in it for everyone on this call? It really gives you a different way of thinking, and I would argue a better way of thinking in this age of AI, where if you go into LinkedIn and the vast majority of messages are just completely regurgitated from the language model, when you start to have original thinking, putting it into your second brain, that really is your thinking. And then you can start to put different ideas together within the second brain and use the LLM as a thought partner instead of just regurgitating knowledge that you don't regurgitating knowledge, just like the vast majority of people that I kind of come across on social media at the moment. So this is an entirely free course. We're going to explore. We're going to start to explore not just building the second brain, but really starting to make it work for you. I promised myself I was going to keep this stream within the 30 minutes. So just to take us home, what we're going to be covering each one of the weeks. So this week was just to get an introduction. So basically, very similar to what you saw from me, is when we're building this second brain, that's what you're going to be doing. So you're going to be building your own second brain to solve a problem that you want to do within your business or within your day-to-day. After that, what you're going to then do is then we're going to actually start to put everything into it using that markdown format. So next week, we're going to go through markdown in a little bit more depth. After that, we're going to start to make that knowledge work for us. So we're going to fire up whatever AI tool that you use, and then we'll start to try and make that second brain work for us. And then finally, what we'll do is we'll start to look how we can keep our second brains alive, how we can grow the second brains, how we can make them better over time. Cool. So if you guys want any to drop or have any kind of one-to-one calls with me about second brains, about building on top of them with skills and stuff like that, either reach out to me on LinkedIn or reach out to me on um, YouTube, or I'll leave my details up at the end of the stream for a few minutes so that you can give me a shout. Last but not least, any questions from anyone? Like, as I said, it's been about 6 months that I've done a stream, so just getting back into the swing of things. In where I'm at the moment is absolutely roasting. It's about 32 degrees. I've got ice packs on my legs trying to cool me down. Yeah, so Patrick's just asked a really interesting question. So he's asking, how does a second brain turn into a business? So in finervision, what we've got is all kind of parts of our business strategy, what our business looks like, where we are focusing. So we're focusing on building content for teams like L&D. So basically, after you've got the second brain, Patrick, you can start to build all your different business assets on top of it, your business plan, your financial forecasts, your websites, your outreach campaigns, your marketing campaigns, your product. So the second brain, if you think about it, is like what everything else is built on top of. So it's kind of like the foundations. If you're thinking about a house, it's a thing that everything else is built off inside the businesses that we work with. Any other questions from anyone else on the stream? Cool. I'll leave the stream open for a couple of minutes, and I'll just leave my details up if anyone has got any further questions, and I'll just answer them on the chat. But thanks everyone. We only started marketing this, I think, on Tuesday. So thanks for everyone, and anyone that's watching it on demand, then just give me a shout. Thanks everyone.